What's up, guys? Today I finally got my Bazzaz and I'm gonna install this bitch right now. First things you obviously need to do: remove the tail plastics, remove the seat, remove the fuel tank. You cannot do this with the fuel tank on, with the seat on, or with the tail section on. You have to take them off. I would even suggest taking the air ducts out to make it easier to remove the air box. That was a little bit of a bitch. The connector that also ties into the fuel pump, be very careful disconnecting that. It is a little finicky. The hoses that go into the tank, a couple of them are vacuum, will not leak. The main fuel line may, so take your time. Grab some rubber vacuum caps to help plug it if you want. Use a paper towel, obviously, just in case any residual fuel likes to fall down in there. But otherwise, let's get started. But first, problem off the bat with a specific bike. This is the actual unit, and I was going to put it here, but there's this piece of plastic sticking up. It's a curved piece, and it's stopping me from actually putting this in a suitable location. And obviously I cannot mount it securely like that. This is not such a big deal. That is actually a support for part of the plastics. This, I think, is for an accessory in the tail. So I'm going to cut this little piece of plastic out. There's nothing in here that it's going to be holding in place. This will be velcroed down. So let's get that done real quick, find out where we're going to mount this, and then we're going to run the harness. Alright, easier said than done. I didn't actually have to cut the piece of plastic. I simply just pushed it forward and went pop and broke clean. There's like a little fragment of plastic here, which is not a big deal. The only thing that sucks is where the two pieces of plastic that come together, there's these two tabs that come up and it's pushing up on the bottom of this. It's not a big deal. I can always stack up some Velcro or padding behind it and make it lift itself. But this is where it's pretty much going to sit. I'm happy with that. There's room for the connectors around this. I don't want to cut this piece out because that looks like it's support for the plastic behind the seat, and it'd be pretty flimsy if I took it out. So I've unwrapped the mysteries of the universe here. This is your main injection harness. Alright, what we're going to do is plug this in. Keep it nice and clean. Make sure, and this goes along with all the different connectors you will be connecting, pay attention and take your time plugging them in. The pins are very small. The pins are very small in your factory harness. If you go in too quick and it happens to catch on one of these edges here and not in the actual hole, you will break the pin and you are fucked. So plug this in slowly. Nice. There's way too many pins to fuck this one up, in my opinion, coming from computers, but still. You need to take your time with this stuff and do it properly. We're gonna put this in the back. Let's see where it wants me to sit. This looks like it'd be a good route. We're gonna route it around the left hand side of the bike, and then we'll be plugging them into the injectors. Alright, pretty much just got it basically routed in the direction I want to go. I would also suggest at the time removing your battery, because it's just going to make your life that much easier. This little bit I have forgotten about. Tuck these past the vacuum lines. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. There's some relays that don't like it being there, but I don't know what to tell you, relays. Alright, first thing we're going to do is plug in the lower injectors. It is marked lower injector. It is kind of hard to miss. It's the one with the yellow tag. The other injector harness for the upper injectors is not marked. So it is just this lower one. Lower injectors on a 2011 GSXR are the ones that have a like brick red or brown connector on them. When you're looking at the harness, you're gonna notice it kind of reaches out to the right. You got one here, and it kind of reaches out. It's gonna be reaching out towards the right. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Don't worry too much about where everything is. Just kind of get a basic idea of where you want it. Everything is gonna be kind of moved around and tucked away when you're done. The important thing is to just do this right and take your time. Lower injector. It's not too hard to miss. Remember, reach to the right. Let's move this out of the way and untangle it a bit. Lower injector. Don't be intimidated by this. It's really plug and play. You're only splicing in maybe a handful of wires. So this is a little plug, big plug scenario like you saw on the Speedo Healer install. It's not that big a deal. Don't be afraid of it. Lower injectors are down here. Like I said, they're brown. Be careful. These are very wobbly. They're very finicky, delicate. Make sure you support the top while you're pushing up on the button and they pop off. See, not a big deal. Let's go with number 1. Little plug into big plug, and again, take your time. There's no reason to rush this. Tooth towards the top. Make sure you get a good connection in there. There we go, nice good snap. Big plug goes on the injector now. Little button towards the bottom. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Sure you feel it slide into place. And a nice snap. That's 1. 3 more! Sweet. Okay, that's lower injectors done. Alright, now let's do the upper injectors. See if you can see this one over here. Yes, you can. So let's do that now. Locate the upper injector harness. It is not labeled. However, it is just like the lower injector harness. Alright, here we go. Upper injectors. Much easier to reach. Bloop. Look how easy that is. A lot of people don't realize they have 8 injectors on their freaking bike. Here's the difficult part. There's 2 TPS sensors, and they're right down in here, over here. I really cannot show you. The camera on this side would completely get in my way. I popped off this piece of plastic on the other side that is blocking. There's a hole right there. This will be running on that side of the bike, so we want it to go around. That was scary. I'm gonna do that right now. No, that's right. That was just that strong of a click, so. Oh wow, that's scary. So it was a great connector. It was completely visible from the side. It was facing up, and it was plugged into the TPS sensor. Now obviously this plug we're gonna have to work down there and get onto the TPS. Small little correction, it is the sensor facing forward of the bike, not facing straight up. Straight up was the other one we took off. I think that's for the primary throttle body actuator motor. So we'll plug that back in obviously, but it's the gray connector facing forward. TPS is plugged in. For God's sakes, let's move on. It has been absolute hell trying to find this connector. The instructions are very vague and the pictures are small. Even online I pulled them up. It was still difficult to find the damn thing. The instructions showed the picture of it being down here near the crankcase. I mean, it was supposed to be there, right down here in the crankcase. This is more on the right side of the bike here, towards the front. Here's your crankcase breather. If you follow it right, look down, there it is. I've literally spent an hour trying to find this thing. So this is your crank position sensor plug. Here we go, disconnected. Son of a bitch. I'm gonna wire this to that. Another little plug, big plug scenario. Nice connection. Good connection. Let's bring this other guy back together. Alright, now let's connect up the gear position sensor. It is right here. It's the only white plug that I have found back here on a 2011. I'm going to unsnap the two. Alright, nice to have the right tools sometimes. Locate your plug for the gear position sensor. They are triangular in a way. Little plug, big plug, yet again. Take your time as always. That's one. That's two. Last but not least, we have a ground ring terminal. There is a ground already pre-existing right down here at the bottom. You can't see it at the moment, and it would be too much of a pain to get the camera to see it. It's right here on the crankcase of the engine. You can already see a pre-existing ring terminal. I'm going to join this to that. Alright, we now have our coil harness, which is right here. We're going to plug that in. Right, meow. Okay. That is on this side. And let's see how we're going to route this. I don't like how they crisscross, but what can you do? Let's go underneath the emissions lines. Alright, we have it routed. Now let's get these plugged into the coils. Alright, we are at the coils. Same thing we did with the fuel rail. Left to right. Follow the reach of the harness. Keep in mind, if you had noticed, I routed it down the right side of the bike. The last connector goes to coil number 1, which is this one here. This is on the left-hand side. They are actually marked. They have little tags on them. You can't really screw this up. Little plug, big plug scenario again. Click. Alright, you have your coils connected up properly. Let's move on. Alright, time to install the quick shifter. This part I won't be recording too much of. It does come with pretty good instructions and you can really figure it out for yourself. The thing you need to do though is take off your shift rod. Note which side is like righty-tighty. In my case it's facing up. The bottom side is reverse threaded. They do supply you with studs, left and right hand thread, to help you adapt. The thing is, you're gonna have to trim, and if you can see these brakes, you can see those brakes right there, that is for taking a length out of the aftermarket rod. With the sensor, you are looking for a length comparable to your factory rod. So just keep that in mind. Measure twice, cut once. Make sure it is what you want before you cut it. Just wanted to show you guys while I'm doing this. I'm going to be taking a link out of this here. Best way to really do that is with a pipe cutter. It's only a few bucks at any auto parts store. It's not really difficult. If you have a jig or something to hold this, like a vise with a jig, then you really don't need something like this. But in my case, I do. So we're going to set this little bugger up. Pretty straightforward. Just getting that blade right into that crease. There it is. With the pipe cutter, keep it nice and tight and rotate. Once it gets loose, you just get a little tighten, keep rotating, gets loose again, tighten, and rotate. Oh. See? Nice and flat. Sweet. What we're also going to be doing is just taking a file and just deburring. Getting rid of all the crud and the hard cuts where it gave way. That's a lot smoother. Let's try it on the install and see how it works. The tool is pretty much maxed out at top, so that's not going anywhere. Let's try and keep that. There we go. This might be too long still, so we'll have to see. This is definitely still too long. Considering my shifter is going to be up here, yeah, we're definitely going to have to take another link out of it. Alright, now we got to route the wiring harness. Keep this in a place that it is easily accessible because there are buttons on here. I think they are buttons. Yeah, they feel like buttons. So we'll put that through here. Route this somewhere away from the cable, just so it doesn't chafe against it. There's plenty of places I can move it with just that amount of slack, so I'm satisfied with that. Now we must find the part of the harness where this little bastard plugs in. However, we have it right here. This is your shift switch. It is on the coil harness. So just introduce these two and you're done. Secure this somewhere safe, preferably away from heat. Alrighty, so I'm going to be installing the Z-AFM now. In your case, if you do not have a Z-AFM, which is this little guy here, this is an onboard wideband system that integrates itself with the computer. You can data log with this and self-tune with it, and it is a fantastic thing to invest in if you're also buying a Bazzaz. I mean, what's another couple $100? If you have an aftermarket exhaust, you might have noticed that you had an adapter for your factory O2 sensor. If you take that adapter out, you will have a big enough hole for a wideband O2 sensor. If you are not running this, you will be removing your O2 sensor completely and using an eliminator that has been supplied in the kit. It is this little guy. This connector here, I believe it is this connector right here. I will double check in a second when I trace the wire up the bike. But you will be using this. If you do not use this, your bike will freak out, it'll probably run fat, and it will throw an engine light. So let's throw this on real quick and take out the O2 sensor. So I have the O2 sensor out. That was real quick. I was right, it was this connector right here. It's a 4-pin connector that was tucked underneath this harness. Right there. So we will be taking the O2 eliminator out of its kit. Always have a knife on you at all times. Don't realize how often you use it until you have one in your pocket. Okay, there's the little eliminator. It's just a jumper pretty much telling the system to shut the fuck up. There's something there. So we're gonna unplug this. We're gonna plug this in. Done. Yeah, just have to be creative and rotate it around the case and slide it out. But there's the factory O2 sensor, it's out. Alright, I've routed the wideband up on the back along with another harness right near the swing arm. It's not the most perfect spot, but the factory route I tried, the new harness is too short compared to the old one. It doesn't come up this far. You are pretty much done. All you really have to do is now clean up this spaghetti of hell and route and secure everything out of the way safely. Double check your connections, reinstall the airbox at least so you can connect all your hoses again and verify that this works. When we get to the point where we actually hook up the laptop and upload a bass tune, we will catch up. Until then, I have the 7 layers of hell to deal with. For the O2 sensor, the Z-AFM actually is what we're talking about here. The Z-AFM will connect to this black covered white plug as soon as I figure out what kind of witchcraft to put this on. There we are. Take off that little black cap, and that's where this will be plugged into. Nice and easy, click of course, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I want to route everything first and find the most efficient way to mount and secure this. But we will catch up in a minute. Alright, last thing, we need to find a switched power source. So I found this little fuse box back here and I see it says ignition right on it, which is exactly what I usually do on cars anyways. It is third from the top. That would be 1, 2, ignition 3. 2 and 3. So I'm going to say it says orange and orange yellow wire. I want to find out which side is hot when the key is switched on, and that is the wire we will splice into. If you don't have a voltmeter, get one. We have found our 12-volt ignition source. And it is 0 when the ignition is off. So I will be splicing into this orange wire. You are supplied a wire splicer in the kit. See, I'm going to do this so it doesn't interfere with the bracket. Looks like we got that spliced in there. Hopefully that actually worked as well as it felt. Snapped right into place. Let's see if this works. Bazzaz is lighting up. We have our 12-volt power source. So let's finish putting this bitch together and get a bass tune on this.
It's hooked up to the bike. It's running on the computer's power. It does not need the ignition switched on to edit any settings. If you could see your unit in here, it is actually glowing red. I've got the base map. Go to bazzaz.net, go to the fuel database, and then search your bike. Fuel map database, search your bike. Download the file. You will go to load. You will pick the file. You will load it, and boom. This is a base map for my bike. If you have the Z-AFM, like I do, you'll go to self-mapping. I'm going to turn the ignition on to verify that it is working. I had an error with my Z-AFM. Yesterday it said error. If you do, there is a white plug that the Z-AFM plugs into the ZFi. With the ignition fully on, I mean fully on, unplug that white plug, plug it back in, it cleared my error. What I'm going to do is start this. I'm going to set it to self-mapping, go to work, shut off the bike, start it back up. It'll resume mapping on the way home, and then we will retrieve and then suggested fuel adjustment. That will come up. I will plug that in, and I'll just keep doing that when I go to work for the next week or so to help tune my own bike. You'll definitely need to do different throttle percentages from 0 to 100, so that's something you need to think about. But otherwise, congratulations, your Bazzaz is installed. If you have a Z-AFM, you can do this. If you do not have the Z-AFM, you have to go to a dyno and you have to have it tuned by somebody. Running around on the base map is not always a good thing. All bikes are different, all climates and fuels are different. You need to get it tuned. Till next time, guys, later. Jump!